Stasis Warlock is one of my favorite classes to run in PvP, and I wanted to make a video that really shows off all that the class has to offer. The playstyle loop is really addictive. Being able to freeze and nuke entire groups in a single melee or by chaining off your grenade leads to really satisfying multi-kills. When it comes to learning Stasis, there are a few keywords that you will need to know in order to fully understand the class and some of the abilities. Slow is a debuff that inflicts multiple status effects at once. When you are slowed, you have 50% reduced movement speed, 50% jump height, and you are unable to use movement abilities. You can inflict slow on enemies using grenades, rift, melee, or by shooting someone with a chill clip weapon. We will come back to those later. Freeze is a debuff that renders your enemies completely immobilized. They are unable to shoot, use abilities, or move. Frozen enemies are typically immobilized for 1.35 seconds, unless they are frozen by a super, in which case they are frozen for about 4.75 seconds. Guardians that are frozen will have their class ability replaced with Breakout instead to break the freeze. Frozen enemies can be shattered through damage or different stasis aspects. Typically, enemies will shatter after dealing 200 damage to them. Stasis shards are formed whenever you freeze a target. However, I noticed that this can be very inconsistent. Frost armor grants 2% damage resist per stack, up to 10% damage resist at times 5 stacks for 9 seconds. With Whisper a Rhyme equipped, you can gain up to 16% damage resist at max stacks. Now that you know the basic terms, let's take a look at some of the different aspects that contribute to your playstyle and discuss which would be better to use. Ice Flare Bolts. Shattering a frozen enemy creates a Seeker, targeting the closest enemy up to 12 meters away and can freeze up to 3 times. Frost Pulse. Allows you to cast your rift and freeze those that are trapped inside of the initial 5 meters and slows up to 8 meters with 50 stacks. Grants 11% class ability energy and plus 2.5 meters launch distance for 1.2 seconds. Bleak Watcher. Sends out a stasis turret that inflicts slowing projectiles at your enemies. Can be destroyed in Crucible and does not track to multiple targets at once. Applies 30 stacks of slow per turret burst, over 5 seconds, and freezes after 2 bursts. Glacial Harvest. When you freeze a target, the freeze will create stasis shards. When you pick up the stasis shards, it will build up stacks of frost armor. In PvP, it grants 2% damage resistance per stack, up to a maximum of 10% at 5 stacks. There are a few aspects that I would recommend using in PvP over the others. Frost Pulse is insanely strong, and Ice Flare Bolts is amazing for chaining players and freezes. This is the two aspects that I use the most. Bleak Watcher usually does not get used to its full potential in PvP because people dodge the slows that require it to freeze, and Glacial Harvest is very inconsistent with generating shards. Overall, it's not a bad thing to run those aspects, but I would not run them without Ice Flare Bolts for the chaining effect. Speaking of chains, there are a couple of options that allow for you to set up for slow, freeze chains, and defensive plays. To start, I'd like to tell you about one of the most important abilities that you'll have at your disposal. Your melee, Penumbral Blast, sends a freezing projectile that does 30 damage and freezes enemies within 2 meters on detonation. It can travel a whopping 22 meters and can be used to freeze groups, peek snipe, and initiate a freeze chain. Unfortunately, this is our only option for melee, but we do have a couple of different grenade options. Cold Snap grenades spawn a Seeker grenade that tracks the closest enemy within 20 meters. The Seeker will detonate upon reaching an enemy, dealing 20 damage and freezing enemies in 1.75 meters distance. Duskfield grenades create a slowing field bubble that deals 20 damage and 10 stacks of slow on impact, increasing by 5 stacks of slow per tick every 0.3 seconds for roughly 7 seconds. Glacial grenades create an ice wall of 5 stasis crystals perpendicularly from where it was thrown, applies 45 stacks of slow for direct impacts, 30 slow for close, 15 slow for vicinity, and requires 2 grenades to fully freeze. This is the least popular for the grenade options. Each grenade has its own use case. You can use Cold Snaps to target enemies that are far away and create a freeze chain with a sniper. You can use Dusk Fields to generate a slow field to block off doorways that players may use to try to flank. Glacials are used to block off doorways and used as a leverage option. You can use them to get out of situations or as a platform to stand on. The last abilities you will have at your disposal is your Rift. You have 2 different options, Healing Rift or Empowering Rift. Empowering Rift grants you 15% increased damage, 104% base grenade and melee regen, along with a 92% additional base class regen rate over a 5 meter radius for 15 seconds. Healing Rift grants you 35 HP per second in a 5 meter radius for 15 seconds. While at full health, the Rift generates 3 overshield per second up to 15 overshield HP. I personally opted for Healing Rift over Empowering because the guns I'm using do not need the damage boost, and I prefer to have the healing options. If you feel comfortable with Stasis Warlock, I would recommend running Empowering Rift for the ability regen over the Healing Rift. Now that you have the basic understandings of the class, I would like to go into the specific fragments and which ones I feel are best suited for the class in PvP. There are fragments that are better suited towards PvE over PvP, but I will go over all of them and share some of my thoughts. Whisper of Bonds. Killing a frozen enemy creates an aura power that grants 2.5% super energy and goes on a 10-second cooldown. I feel like this is nice to have for healing and super regen. Whisper of Chains. Kills while Frost Armor is active progress a counter that spawns a small stasis shard when filled. I wouldn't use it personally because there's not a lot of value out of generating stasis shards this way, so it's probably a PvE fragment. Whisper of Chill. Stasis weapon kills progress a counter that spawns a small stasis shard when filled. Guardians provide 67% progress towards the counter, and after a shard is created there is a 5-second cooldown before additional kills will progress the counter. Like Whisper of Chains, I feel that this is very niche and more geared towards PvE. It can be very silly to chain Frost Armor with Cryesthesia or Wicked Implement, but outside of those use cases I feel like you would get more value out of another fragment. Whisper of Conduction. Stasis shards within 15 meters of you will pull to your character after a 1-second delay. 100% this is a PvE fragment and not worth running in PvP. You will get a lot of value out of the other fragments. Whisper of Durance. Slow debuff durations and certain abilities last longer. In my opinion, this is one of the most important fragments to have equipped. It extends a majority of your ability's slow timers as well. Without having Durance equipped, your freeze would only last for around 2.5 to 3 seconds, but with the fragment equipped, it lasts for 5 seconds. Whisper of Fissures. Shattering enemies or destroying crystals deals additional damage instances, dealing up to 9 damage in an 8 meter radius and a maximum of 4 damage at fall off distance. Personally, this doesn't leave my build no matter what. Sometimes the extra damage is enough to shatter surrounding enemies. Whisper of Fractures. Grants 1 stack of Frost Armor upon shattering an enemy with melee damage. Honestly, this can be strong for melee-oriented builds involving glaives and chaining with Frost Pulse. Whisper of Hedrons. Freezing an enemy grants handling and 30 health for 11 seconds. This is nice to have in a pinch, but not necessary since you'll usually have something that can heal you or generate orbs and Frost Armor. Whisper of Hunger. Stasis shards grant melee energy. I wouldn't use this in PvP at all. There's better ways to recycle your melee energy, and it doesn't involve removing any stats. Whisper of Impetus. Refills all weapons and grants plus 40 handling for 5 seconds when you deal powered melee damage. This is a really strong fragment because it comes in clutch with refilling special weapons before going into an engagement, or if you need to save yourself in tight situations. Whisper of Refraction. Kills against enemies affected by stasis effects, grants class ability energy. Increasable guardians count as 15%. This is a really solid fragment for recycling class ability energy, but there are exotics that can do that too, and armor mods. Whisper of Rending. Primary ammo weapons deal 100% increased damage against stasis crystals and 50% increased damage against frozen enemies. It also includes Fighting Lion, Revision Zero, Vex Mythoclast, and all of their alternate fire modes. This is 100% situational, but if you are using a Fighting Lion build, it is required for Fighting Lion to be able to one-shot body when frozen. Whisper of Reversal. While Frost Armor is active, dealing or receiving physical melee damage applies 10 stacks of slow for 5 seconds, also applies to glaive melees. I do not run this because I do not build around Frost Armor, but if I had a way to constantly keep Frost Armor uptime, then I would include it in my kit. Being able to slow enemies and punish Weavewalk glaive users can really turn a 1v1 in your favor. Whisper of Rime. Increases the maximum amount of Frost Armor stacks tip times 8 and the duration to 13 seconds. I would only use this for builds that are using Frost Armor, otherwise it's really not going to be helpful. Whisper of Shards. Destroying a Stasis Crystal grants 150% additional base grenade regen rate for 6 seconds up to a maximum of 11 seconds. This is another really niche use since Warlock already has built-in grenade regen and increased grenade ability damage. I can see this being used if you're chaining frost walls or headstone weapons though. Whisper of Torment. Grants 7% grenade ability energy upon receiving damage. Has a 1 second cooldown and duration is boosted to 12 seconds while Frost Armor is active. I feel like this is another strong fragment since you're constantly taking damage in PvP and grenade can be really useful. I used to use this fragment a lot, but I took it off for bonds. Overall, there are a lot of fragments that can be really good when paired together, but since you're only able to pick a maximum of 4 fragments, you have to consider what weapons and armors you will use. Luckily, there are a few weapons and armor pieces that are built with stasis in mind. When it comes to exotic weapons, I would suggest one of the following. Icebreaker. Shattering a frozen enemy or scoring a precision headshot will trigger an ignition. Hits against enemies affected by stasis debuffs generates +1 ammo every other hit. Conditional Finality. Deals stasis damage for the first shot, which inflicts freeze, and the second shot deals solar damage and causes an ignition. Counts towards harmonic resonance and benefits from handling and reload speed increases, benefits from solar and stasis mods. Cryosthesia 77k. Kills grant an LN2 burst. The burst is triggered via special reload. Once swapped into the burst mode, it will charge per 0.53 seconds and then inflict freeze on direct hits. Enemies within 6 meters are debuffed with 50 stacks of slow. Once the freeze shot is fired, it will swap to the original sidearm mode, and Catalyst grants auto reload if you kill a frozen enemy. Wicked Implement. Scoring 4 precision hits within 4.5 seconds of each other's grants creeping attrition. Precision hits inflict 20 stacks of slow for 4 seconds. Scoring a precision kill or shredding a stasis crystal creates a small stasis shard on a 2-second cooldown. Collecting a stasis shard or destroying a crystal refills the mag. Catalyst grants additional +5 on shard pickup and headstone trait.
Pressure on. Now you're fighting with heart. Strength in numbers, Guardian. Excellent.
Ariana's Vow fires a single shield-piercing bullet that deals 77 solar damage. Death at first glance grants 32.5% increased damage for the first scope shot. Precision hits maintain death at first glance and reactivates after 3 seconds on not firing. Breaking a solar shield triggers an ignition. Guardians in their super count as having an elemental shield that matches their super. Catalyst grants additional magazine and auto-loading holster. Lawrence Driver fires a single precision bolt that deals 132 void damage with a 4.3 times precision multiplier. Precision kills trigger an implosion that pulls enemies in. While at least 3 enemies are within 50 meters, it will target the farthest enemy, highlighting them, until either killed or over 80 meters away. Marked enemies spawn a telemetry pattern on death. Telemetry patterns grant +1 ammo and last up to 60 seconds on the ground. Stacks are removed upon death. Picking up 3 patterns grants Lagrangian Sight for 30 seconds and +6 ammo. Lagrangian Sight grants 87.5% increased damage, 30 handling, and 35 reload speed, and a precision multiplier is decreased. Lagrangian Sight can be refreshed with additional telemetry patterns, and the Catalyst provides enhanced radar, and while at times 3 telemetry patterns, any kills will trigger an implosion.
Keep it up. Shut the enemy down.
Still Hunt. Sniper rifle, scoring precision hits, and picking up orbs of power charge up the golden gun mode. Precision hits fill up 16.7% of the bar and orbs fill up 8.34%. The supercharge can be untamed while stowed and persists through death. However, that does not count in trials. Activating the golden gun mode via special reload grants the gun 3 ammos and hipfire reticle. Lasts for roughly 16 seconds and deals 238 damage with a 2 times precision multiplier. Successful precision hits grant increased damage and you can be suppressed out of the golden gun mode.
Zone C lost. They have advantage. Zone B, you have advantage.
Outside of the weapons above, you can also pair Stasis with any shotgun, fusion, or sniper to make the most out of the subclass and multi-kill chains. I tend to pair my Stasis builds with an Icelo sniper, but you can choose whichever special weapon you feel best. Now that you have an understanding of the basics and some weapon options, you get to choose which exotic armor you'd like to use. There are a few options when it comes to exotics, but since this is a game built around trying new things, I would highly encourage build crafting and messing around with the exotic armor. But if you don't know where to get started, here are a few of my favorites. The Stag grants 5% damage resist to guardians inside of the rift created. Upon reaching critical health, the rift will grant 25% class ability energy, lasting until you are no longer at critical health. Dying spawns a healing rift at your location. This is easily my favorite exotic of all time to use with Stasis. I use it for almost every single one of my builds. I really love the amount of regen you can get on your rift, and it allows you to recycle your abilities quite often. Osmiomancy provides 2 grenades and your cold snap grenades recharge quicker on hits. Additionally, the Seeker spawn travels farther. These are still good, but I believe there are better options to use. Rhymecoat Raiment enhances your Bleak Watcher turret with extra range and surrounds them with stasis crystals and storm. While standing in the storm, you are granted icicles that activate when you fire your weapon, applying slow to targets they hit. Honestly, this can be silly since it can generate extra crystals to feed into Whisper of Shards, but outside of that, I don't see a good use for it in Crucible. Balador's Weavers. Enemies frozen by Winter's Wrath receive 150% shatter damage. While shattering with Winter's Wrath, allies within 30 meters receive ×4 weapon surge for 6 seconds and maximum frost armor stacks. Refunds a percent of super energy per ally buffed. On Riftcast with Frost Pulse, grants ×2 stasis weapon surge for 6 seconds and maximum frost armor. Grants 2% super energy per ally that received frost armor. I have not personally used this, but friends who have used this have told me it's kinda busted with a frost armor build. You can constantly recycle your abilities and gain super pretty fast. Eye of Another World. Passively grants 50% additional base grenade, melee, and class regen rate, and 15 airborne effectiveness. Highlights enemies below 50 HP in a red outline, and highlights enemy guardians with fully charged supers in a yellow outline. This exotic is one of the exotics that I didn't really think to try, but after using it, I feel like it's very niche and can be good in certain situations. I don't know if I would really use it over the stag though. Overall, you have a lot of build variety and options when it comes to Stasis Warlock. I highly encourage messing around with different fragments and aspects until you find a combo that sticks for you. My last topic for this video is quickly briefing on some of the weapon traits that can help with recycling your abilities and some that are made for stasis specifically. There's a lot more to Stasis than people realize, and it's one of the most powerful classes in the game if played correctly. The ability to shut down supers, glaive titans, shotgun apes, and weave walk warlocks really give an upper hand to the player. Being able to chain multi-kills with your grenade and melee leads to satisfying team wipes as well. The class does not get a lot of love and instead is looked at as cheesy or a crutch, and to higher skilled lobbies it can be difficult to freeze and be as broken as people make it out to be. I hope that this guide helped you with any questions you may have and helps you learn the class more. If you have any other questions that was not answered here, please feel free to ask in the comment section. Thank you for taking the time to get this far. I hope you stick around for the next videos I cook up.